weekend for them, but as he said, maybe getting things together on the draft side.
Yeah, the drafting is going to be really important as we head into the battleground to see what the first battleground will be. It's going to be Sky Temple, chosen by Team Freedom, an old Team Freedom classic. You see bans on Brax's Holdout, as well as Dragonshire, which does take away a power pick for simplicity when looking at this. But, you know, JL, we've been looking a lot at Team Freedom throughout this part, and there have been some interesting signs coming out from them.
Yeah, you know, it's something we've actually kept our eye on, and we were debating, do we bring this up now? When's an appropriate time? And I think now's an appropriate time, because when Team Freedom was sitting at the top at 4-0, they were #1, but they didn't quite look like a dominant team. And when it came statistically, they weren't quite near the top. And traditionally, we see those teams that are at the top of the region have better stats, and it just hasn't quite been there, right?
Right. Their average deaths per game, very low. One of the lowest, if not the lowest. But it's when you look at average kills per game that they're falling behind a lot of teams. They're actually 5th within the region, behind Tempo Storm, Gale Force Esports, Team 12, and Heroes Hearth Esports. And in general, this is a trend that can be troubling for a North American team when we start to look at NA teams going to international events. Because a lot of times when you just play safely, you're waiting for mistakes of your opponents. And when you go to a new region, a region with higher skilled teams, you don't face the same kind of mistakes. You don't know how to punish the exact same way. But we know that Team Freedom, they have the best macro rotations in all of North America. We know that they're hard workers, and they adapt very quickly, both in draft and within the game. So I have no doubt that if this does prove to end up being an issue for them when they go to the Western Clash, if they can clinch their Western Clash ticket here, that we'll see them be able to make those additions very quickly. But it's still something that we have been keeping an eye on.
Yeah, we'll discuss more as that goes on, but moving through the draft rather quickly are both of these teams, as we saw the Genji and Malfurion. No Hanzo, particularly here in the first rotation, but a first pick Malthael. Gilly, with the changes coming in.
This is drastically different from what we've seen so far in Europe. First of all, the Malthael has only risen in priority in North America. We saw a ban and a couple of picks in Europe, so with the rework, he is starting to come in, but not nearly to the level that we've already seen here in Game 1, and we'll see if that trend keeps up for NA. Also, Greymane, completely inexistent in Europe. He had like one ban not really being picked, had a lot of changes to his Gilne and Cocktail, and some of the picks that go along with that, the talents that go along with that. So these are two heroes that I want to keep an eye on and how they continue to be prioritized in North America, especially with how that relates to our friends over in Europe.
And speaking of prioritization, Gilly, I want to discuss with you a little bit of Lutano's hero pool. It's the smallest in North America. He's only played 5 heroes in over 20 games. I think they're sitting at 25 games currently. Hanzo, Genji, and Greymane are kind of the top tier. Hanzo not as high priority on this map, but Greymane as well. It seems like they always try and prioritize his hero, and when they don't, that's when they struggle in getting him before the second ban.
Yeah, and last week was an instance where they weren't doing that. They were a lot more focused on having like a Tyrael pick after an ETC ban, trying to isolate the warrior role a lot more, and then sending down the Lutano heroes. Whereas the first 3 weeks, almost every single first pick they had, except I think one game, was a Lutano hero. Very highly prioritized for him. So now we're seeing that Greymane pop back up. It's one of his, it's not one of the Shamadas, for sure for him, but it is still a highly lethal and good pick for Lutano.
Well, we saw the Jaina pick up. It's something we know Simplicity likes to play. I think Hosty got a game in on it last week, maybe?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, so he's got a couple games so far. It's kind of been the Zuna pickup, but we've seen some back and forth there. The other thing is, I think for both of these teams, Tychus has high priority. So there's a possibility that we'll see Tychus come out on the side of Team Freedom. He gives you that potential second backliner. He has the Neo Steel coating to deal with some of the burst damage from Jaina post-level 13 with that spell armor. And so I think that might be something that comes into play. And you mentioned the Tyrael, Gilly. I was looking at drafts going into this. Tyrael, first pick, 6-13. That is a terrible number for a first pick. Actually, the lowest win rate for first pick heroes globally. No Tyrael after we saw nothing but Tyrael last week. I think teams are catching on.
Yeah, we'll see where his priority falls with NA teams. It did seem very interesting to see Tyrael rise to where he was at last weekend, but we also had the Tyrael rework coming in. And so now we have an additional patch. And for teams, for a lot of teams, this is it. This is your make or break weekend. Only Tempo Storm have qualified. And as we said before, Freedom, they're pretty close. They're almost there. So are Team 12. But there's no room for errors in the drafting. You have to make sure that your drafting is locked down, which is why we heard Yoda talk so much about it. We're looking at a ban now for Simplicity. Could be another warrior. Could be the support. They're going to ban that Tyrael.
the Tyrael post second ban, his win rate goes up. There's no doubt about it. Finding Tyrael to fit into your composition when it's necessary as opposed to forcing it has been far more successful traditionally as we've looked at 2018 HGC across the globe, and that's kind of the biggest thing. You know, the Uther ban from Team Freedom denying that over from the likes of K1 Pro, who's played a lot of Malfurion and played a lot of Uther, and I think that we see that priority here. With that being said, Stukov is the next played. We saw some Lucio play as well. Lucio is a high priority for Freedom. Instead, so is Karazim. Does that force Simplicity into a little bit more of a less, I guess, prioritized support here?
Lucio is still up, and it was something that we saw for the first time from K1 Pro last week. Looked really good. So maybe that's a way that they can use that as a way of... You've got Sound Barrier to deal with the Dragon's Arrow initiation. You also have the sort of speeding away when Blaze comes in and starts dropping all of his oil spills in the slows. So maybe we'll see that from K1 Pro again. For Simplicity though, loving to see the Malthael first pick. Not only we'll see if that continues out, but as a deny from Team Freedom, that's been Nasmus's most played. I'm kind of wondering if maybe we get them out. Well, there's no Malfurion, so I don't know if we'll get the Tracer. I think that's where Team Simplicity were looking to go, so that's a heads-up ban from Team Freedom, to ban that right out the gates.
See what Simplicity wants to do here. They've got a very strong damage dealer style. They've got a lot of flexibility back there. Again, Jaina can be played by both. Primarily, it's been Zuna so far. We get ourselves a Cassia here and a Rhaegar on the pack side. The Rhaegar is a new pickup for K1 Pro.
It is. It's very interesting to see that. There's going to be the Ragnaros for the fiery composition of Team Freedom, one that we've seen from teams such as Tempo Storm. But the Cassia and the Rhaegar are both new, I believe, for Simplicity. Cassia more of a responsive pick. It feels like what we're seeing from Team Freedom, a lot of auto-attacking. A lot of auto-attack heroes from there, as well as what she can do versus even a Karazim. Rhaegar, in general, it feels like we don't see Rhaegar, we don't really see a lot of him in North America at all as compared to other regions, and it is interesting to see that pickup for a new support player where it's not a support player who was kind of playing in the time where Rhaegar was super meta, and so you can kind of fall back on those skills.
There's actually been 114 Rhaegar games played in our 3 main league regions, sitting at 41% win rate. North America only played 15 times, so definitely a higher priority in Korea and Europe as opposed to North America. And as you said, with K1 Pro playing it for the first time, we've seen him pick up this role pretty quickly. He's brand new to this role. If you guys aren't familiar with the name, he's one of the best ranged assassins we've had in all of Heroes history. Now he's switched over to the support role, and he's done a pretty good job so far just about a month into the season.
Well, let's see how he does on his Rhaegar, as well as Zuna's return to the Jaina. We're going into game 1 between Team Freedom and Simplicity. It's the qualification match for Team Freedom to make it to the Western Clash. Let's see if they can do it.
See if they can do it as we take a look on the left side here. Nasmus will be playing the Ragnaros here for Team Freedom in blue. The rest of the team will be Yoda on Greymane, Collusion on Karazim, Lutano on Hanzo, and Zugrug on Blaze.
And for Simplicity in the red, we're looking at Hosty playing that Cassia, K1 Pro, new support player on the Rhaegar, King Caffeine, he'll be playing his classic ETC, Zuna returns to the Jaina, and finally Erho playing the new Malthael.
The new Malthael will be fun to watch. You know, obviously a little bit different when it comes to being in the lanes, having a cleave auto attack now, reduced damage, but definitely makes him stronger in the lane. Some changes to his talents, especially Die Alone at level 7, no longer applying to minions, things like that. You have a different dynamic, I think, when it comes to the laning, and Malthael, I think, is going to be rising in priority for a lot of that.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see what we get at level 10 as well from Malthael. I've heard a lot of last rites cropping up here and there, or if we'll still get Tormented Souls, even though the armor that you get, or that you used to get with that, was removed. Now, Arrow's down on the bottom, Collusion sees him. ETC is there too. They're looking for that first pick. They've caught Collusion there as the power slide goes through, has a dash, second dash out. Hosty goes for the fend. Collusion makes it out okay.
Yeah, that's my favorite part about Cassia. It's smooth, right? You get in there, you get that fend damage in. He cut it off a little bit early, recognized he couldn't get the kill. But when you do go in with the fend, you obviously make yourself a little bit vulnerable, so you don't want to go in too far. Zuna going to be zoned out from that globe. Of course, going into that globe talent, unable to pick that up. That's kind of one of the things. You can get the good wave clear, but going against the melee makes it difficult.
So we've seen Zuna on Jaina and then the switch over for Hosty. In having the reduced range and then having to go in with Fend, as you said, Jay-How, it seems to make sense here to have Hosty be on that Cassia. But we'll see how things work out with Zuna playing back on the Jaina. It feels like he has been a lot more successful when we see him on those kind of pseudo-melee roles. Things like Tracer, things like Kerrigan, who can dive in and get a combo when he feels like it's the right point to do so. Even the Greymane has been a lot more working out for Zuna. But in this case, Greymane belonging to Team Freedom, to Lutano, who's going more into an auto-attack build, getting viciousness at level 1. I wonder if this means we'll get to see the new Wizen Duelist at level 7.
It's a fun one. You stack those up and you get the auto attacks in. Every time you get the auto attack in, it eventually stacks up. But if you die, you lose some of that. So we'll see how that plays out. Right now, both teams picking up their night camps in the top. So it looks like Simplicity will be able to clear up, only losing one. They still have the rest of theirs. We'll see how hard Team Freedom can defend here as well.
And that's my mistake. It's Yoda who's playing Greymane, as we also have a Hanzo, 2 of Lutano heroes, for the price of 1 for Team Freedom's first draft. Lutano has been building into the scatter shot, which did take a hit when you look at level 7. Having never outmatched, the cooldown reduction is a lot less, which will make you take a little bit longer to be able to steal away a boss. But he's still going to build into that. Nasmus using the Molten Core against this siege from Simplicity in the top. The Temple's activating in just 15 seconds.
Temple's activating. He's doing well to clear it, but they're getting more value than did Team Freedom. Simplicity getting that one tower down. They got a little bit more of the other one in terms of that turret, but with the temples here, we've seen teams kind of play around that, right? If you can get the majority of the top lane damage, and then you take the top temple, you can sometimes get that fort, depending on how much damage you did, which generally nets you more experience in the early game. But with the gameplay changes, normally both teams now are at level 10 by the time the second temple phase comes in. So while the changes are there and teams are prioritizing it this way, not necessarily the same type of impact that we've seen since the changes here in 2018.
And that is the play from Simplicity. However, they had a 2-on-2 going on with 2 down in the bottom. Now they're chasing up Yoda, who disengages back behind the gate. As they rotate up, though, so too were Team Freedom rotating up to that top temple, stealing away some of the shots. So they've been able to get quite a lot out of this first temple phase. As Simplicity are starting to move into the mid, Team Freedom rotating back, trying to gain control of this for the final few shots.
They're trying to regain control. Zuna got very low there, having to make sure that he goes out. We'll see if he's got his tap or whether he's going to have to hearth. I think he is hearthing, but there we're going to see our first blood as Blaze gets caught in a little bit too deep. Simplicity flexing on him just a little bit. Gets the final part of that fight.
It was beautifully done by Airho to go into the Wraith Strike for the body block, and then the follow-up was there with King Caffeine, showing that frontline synergy that we love to see from those 2 aggressive players from Simplicity. Now Airho going back down, using that cleave to clear out the minion wave. Very close in experience. Team Freedom did stay in the game with being able to control more of those temples, having those rotations down, while Simplicity prioritized not giving any structure damage to that Greymane who was down in the bottom. But at this point, it's anyone's game, and as we talked about, it's a really good place for Simplicity to be in because this used to be a problem point for them.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing for them. They find ways to come back, but it generally relies on late-game team fighting. And then we look on alternatively at Team Freedom, and when it comes to them, they generally excel when they get a little bit of a lead in the early game. They get the first objective, they find a little bit of a lead, and they're able to kind of snowball that, maintain the lead, and make it difficult for teams to come back. And that's something that Team Freedom has done well. Sky Temple, a little bit different dynamics, so see if they can get themselves a lead after the second temple phase, which is where both of them, it's a bit more neutral. So there's normally a winner kind of that comes out on top after the second temple phase.
Yeah, doubly important that Simplicity are, if not invading camps, if bringing the aggression to Team Freedom full force like we saw from Space Station, at least keeping up here to the mid game when they can get heroics and try to win that team fight over the bottom temple, which will be activating in 30 seconds. Team's working on making sure that they can get their heroic abilities before that hits.
See how it goes as level 10, of course, dangerously close for both. You know, I just realized, and you might have covered this, but Thunderstroke, the pickup over the charge strikes, it's always fun for me when I say, it was like the first build that I played when we got to play Cassia. I just like kind of the poke style there. It gives you a little bit of poke. You can couple that with 13 and 16 to get more talents out of it. Obviously, it's a questing talent. You get more damage and then the extra charge and stuff later on. So see how that goes in, but level 10 here for both teams picked up.
All right, last rites there for our Malthael. Ring of Frost over Water Elemental for Jaina. Still considering for Cassia if we're going to have Valkyrie or Ball Lightning. Team Freedom This is a common play for Team Freedom. They're going to rotate up to the top, get the bruisers, just push that top fort down, not be willing to risk the fight in the bottom, and which is where Simplicity wants to be fighting. They want to be trying to get into team fights, and Team Freedom has a lot of respect for that. They're going to use their Molten Core to give a little bit extra damage to both the towers at the keep, as well as make sure that they've got the poke there to get this bruiser camp. And this is a strong push in the top lane that Simplicity are just now responding to.
Yeah, this is a really unique strategy. You can see that they planned this out as Hosty goes in, gets hit with the Sulfurous Smash, but he's going to get out of there. But making a play on double Night Camp and then using Molten Core. You could see this was a strategic plan. Zugruk, he's in a little bit too deep, not able to survive. He goes down. I think the thing that you had to consider, though, was that ETC had Stage Dive.
Right, he had Stage Dive, and where the rest of Simplicity chose to strike, very easy to power slide and then lock down Blaze from there. However, it was another great palm from Collusion, who's shown fantastic Carzine play all of part 1, to try to counteract with the last rights. But for Simplicity's sake, they still had the lockdown there, and they also picked up Valkyrie. So that was really good. The cleanse, as Hosty became the target for the primary engagement from Team Freedom, also good. Simplicity hanging in this game. They've been able to get the 2 kills that have happened so far, and they are structurally a little bit ahead even of Team Freedom.
Things can do that. Not a huge advantage for either team. I think losing the Blaze there probably hurt them a little bit more. It puts them on a soft reset, as that they couldn't really be aggressive in their next rotations while waiting for their main tank to pretty much come back on board. So with the next Temple phase, it's going to be mid-bottom. There's a chance that both teams, because they're going to be at 13 at the same time, that unless somebody gets a pick or makes a big power play, both teams might just trade out here when it comes to this next one, because Simplicity does have, you know, although they lost that top fort and that wall, they'll get the mid fort and the top fort and then probably look to pressure a bit more after that.
Nasmus has been spotted. King Caffeine's there. We see Airhouse starting to rotate up, trying to maybe see if they can get that Nasmus pick. Even Cassia starting to come in. Caff keeping him here. This is dangerous zone for Nasmus, who's going to self-cast that Sulfurous Smash. Just hoping to trade out on kills now. But Airhouse, he has the self-healing, and with that ensures that he can get some cooldown reduction there. With that, Team Freedom, they knew for a long time that Nasmus was going to be the gank, so they're going to try to get something out of this, going for the boss. The Stage Dive, J-House!
Stage Dive directly onto it, but the Ring of Frost is going to be there, and all of a sudden, that's 2 members down of Freedom. They get absolutely deleted. Yoda, he goes in, go for the throw. He does trade out 1 kill, but he's going to go down. All 5 members of Team Freedom are down, and Simplicity takes a boss.
Yo, that Valkyrie threaded the needle, bringing in a juicy target, and then Jaina was very quick to follow up on that. Simplicity do lose their Jaina, but they will happily trade out, getting the boss in that 1v4 trade, especially with 2 temples activated behind this.
This is a major power play for Simplicity, as they now have almost a full 2-level lead, which they'll likely have at the end of this Temple phase, and the boss pushing in. And Simplicity just blowing up. As you can see, Stage Dive very much a target there.
Stage Dive is really important. The Ring of Frost there to watch that Valkyrie brings in, and Ancestral Healing, making sure to keep Hosty alive from that too, but that was just beautifully done, the synergy there between the Jaina and Cassia as soon as that Valkyrie brought in the target. We've been seeing that so much more from Hosty and Zuna, which has been really awesome to see, and for there, having Stage Dive was very integral. That was a 3v4. Freedom noticed that a lot had been committed to making sure that Simplicity got that Nasmus kill, and it was a great idea, a great rotation, but having ETC with the Stage Dive ensured that he could get there in time and tie it up for people. They had the Ring of Frost to the point too, a lot of burst damage, and then the great Valkyrie. Simplicity now with a 2-level lead, 7 kills to 1.
Things looking really good here for Simplicity. Early, kind of a slow start, but ever since Nasmus pushed up too far, and you know, we saw these unique strategies from Freedom, they haven't exactly paid off, and then Ragnaros stepping out, and King Caffeine having that heads-up play, that awareness he called. He's idly standing by, waiting for an opportunity, comes over, and of course Last Right's getting the takedown as well. So 2-level lead for Simplicity. I think Freedom still feeling the effects of last weekend.
And for Simplicity, it is so exciting to see them continue the consistency. It's just game 1. It's only 1 game in, but how well they played last weekend versus Heroes Hearth and LFM. Though I complimented when I talked to Hosty, he said, those are just matches we have to win, Gilly. We need to be winning those. But you could tell that they felt like finally things were coming together for them. It maybe took a little bit longer than they were hoping, but this team is starting to play as a team. That's been our ask for them, for these powerhouse names for this entire part, and it's so exciting to see it finally get there.
See if they can continue, as we've got a double Temple phase. You'll see a lot of priority over that vision because it allows you to make plays rotating between there, maybe catch your opponent off guard. It's going to be here in 30 seconds. 16, not quite here for Freedom, so they've got a couple in the bottom. They're spread out right now, trying to get that 16 tier and get on even ground. The problem is that Freedom essentially is going to have to start making plays, Gilly, because structurally, you pointed it out a few minutes ago, it hasn't changed much. It's only gone more in the favor of Simplicity as they're going to start looking towards keeps from here on out, and Team Freedom still has 2 forts on the other side looking at them.
Yeah, that's the Sky Temple burn. You start to fall behind in the objective phase, and you are losing out a lot more since it directly attacks it. Freedom are just about to get 16, though. Now they're there. With the 2 temples, Simplicity are playing it safe. They're not separating between the 2. They are fully willing to just sit in the mid and start sieging down on that mid keep. Team Freedom move forward, getting the slows in, going for the jet propulsion. Airho the target, but he has the cleanse to get on out and stay safe.
The Dragon Arrow is pretty unimpactful. They weren't able to make much of a play off of that, so that's a big heroic that was used there. Simplicity looking for an opening. King Caffeine stepped onto the temple. It's going to neutralize things for the moment, but the standoff continues. In comes the Valkyrie.
Valkyrie hits. They've got Sulfurious Smash going down too. King Caffeine takes a boatload of damage from that. Jaina falls on the other side as Yoda goes in for the kill. Getting that kill was huge. No, Zugrug powering on in once again with the charge. Yoda following a knockback from King Caffeine keeps the team alive for the moment, but finally Rhaegar falls. But the 2 kill, the double kill, the turnaround for Simplicity is huge.
It's huge. Collusion. He gets the palm onto Yoda, who's trying to get out alive, and is just able to go, but with the extra range, he's going to go in. He's trying to get one more. He does not land it, so he's not able to get that race strike on there. But Hosty got to be careful of the trade. Lutano, let's see if he can get it. He does not land the arrow.
Every shot, 1, 2, 3, Hosty avoids. Holy moly. I don't know how this Cassia just lived. But Arrow chasing down, getting those double turnaround kills, it seemed impossible there. That seemed like the start of Team Freedom's comeback. But because of that, having ETC back too, they're going to start the channel. J-How, breakdown, what the heck happened here?
Yeah, Zuna with the aggressive flank and positioning, he actually lands the ring, but Yoda spots him out. That was the start of it all. And then the turn of it. They get the big stun, and it was like, well, Mouthail's still here. You get the knockback, and then Urho just goes in right here.
Took out the K1 Pro, but you see Airho there getting the double kill. It was a great palm to keep Yoda alive so we could start putting some damage in, softening some of his health bars up. But it was not long for this world. His positioning was as such that it was pretty easy for Airho to chase down. But Airho likely would have gotten another one there if that Death Shroud had just hit. So nice heads-up play from Collusion to avoid that Death Shroud. We've got another boss, Simplicity moving in to try to contest.
I'm actually surprised. They don't have to contest this. They still have a fort in the way. Stage dive is in, however. Yoda on the backside. He comes in, Sulfurious Smash lands. That's the end of 1 life. Hosty on the backside. That's going to be the end of 2. The boss, however, was picked up by Simplicity.
This is a 3v5, but Simplicity do get the boss. They're going to lose Zuna too as Yoda chases him down. Simplicity loses Arrow. They're losing everybody. 4 people down as Team Freedom take them out, but the boss is in the bottom. There's still a fort in bottom and in mid, sort of, for Simplicity, so Team Freedom just has to go back and clear out the boss, and it's sort of a zero-sum game here. Although with those Giants, Team Freedom are trying desperately to get something out of this, at least. They got 4 kills. They need to do something here.
That's one of those rare moments, Gilly, where it's okay to give the boss. You still had turrets and a fort still standing. You have enough pop to kind of keep them away with Jaina to take down that boss and really not give up much. The risk versus reward, you get that boss, you take a team fight, you win the game if you're Simplicity. You fall back, you're still very much ahead in terms of structures and the way this game is played. Simplicity made a risky call there. They paid for it. Freedom finds their way back into the game. And Gilly, they're close to 20, as are both teams. Now both teams 1 team fight away from potentially ending this game.
Yeah, that was the call Freedom had to make. Freedom were the ones that needed to force a fight somewhere, and Simplicity fell for that. But for Simplicity, remember, this is a team that, in general, wins off of late-game team fights. So it was something that, a risk they were willing to take, maybe just more used to the idea that, in general, they are behind, and they're the ones trying to make those kinds of fights. But for whatever the reason was, we had a great Sulfurious Smash from Nasmus that started things off, allowing Yoda to go in and get the kill, and this gets Team Freedom caught back up. They're taking it down that bottom. Keep on the tempo, Simplicity, trying to figure out what they want to do here. They have ETC pushing in the top, trying to see if maybe they can get that keep. Every keep for Freedom is incredibly low.
See if we get Molten Core here. He does.
Yep.
Just before it goes down, I thought King Caffeine might position himself just to press W once and then slide out. But we've got
Erho.
so many keeps that are close to going down, and Erho's so far. The Ancestral lands, but Jaina does go down.
Jaina went down, the Ancestral landed. Erho had No One Can Stop Death. I don't know if he was going to make it out there. So using both that and the Ancestral healing, he actually hasn't popped No One Can Stop Death yet. So maybe considering if he actually wants to do that, may feel like this is a really tough spot for Simplicity to be in. They definitely could use the help to come back. Did he already use it, maybe?
That's a really good question, right? I don't think so, because they just had gotten 20 prior to. Maybe he recognizes this isn't the opportune time. Team Freedom, they can't exactly end now. If they were close to ending, he could use that. Save it for a better time. With both of those keeps so low there. I mean, structurally, Simplicity is still up. It's only a few channels that will take the mid and top to get the keeps down, but it's still anybody's game at this point.
Yeah, it's so infuriating for Simplicity, though, because of those double bruiser camps now in the top. They just have to give those. The giant camps are up 2, and they have catapults pushing against them in that lane. Team Freedom is going to make this top lane almost impossible unless they try to backdoor off of the keep there. And with no keeps, there's no catapults to kind of give them an opening so that if Simplicity win a team fight, they can easily just push in. But it's getting late enough. If they win it handily, they should be able to still go in, and with those keeps low, be able to take it. Just depends how far things are pushed out, how long it takes to push them back. Molten Core being used as Team Freedom hope to siege down a second keep.
Yeah, getting this keep would be a really big play for Team Freedom. It would allow them to potentially end. Sulfura Smash landing onto 2, but no follow-up yet.
Yeah, that's really important for Simplicity that they got through that. That's the setup for Yoda. They have another one. They have Dragon's Arrow too, should Simplicity step out. But Molten Core is just about done now. It is done. And ETC stage dove in, took out 2 keeps, and is going to bolt on out. Dragon's Arrow, though, they know that ETC is not here.
I don't know what Simplicity's doing coming out here, because they instantly get turned on with 2 members down. This is an opportunity for Team Freedom to potentially end. They still have Jaina, which has that burst damage that can potentially turn this around, but no Ring of Frost. Right now, Jaina, Malthel, ETC, they're holding Team Freedom. They get the keep. They're backing out. Double temple phase could potentially end this. I don't know what happened there with Simplicity.
Well, they stage dove in wanting to get the keeps.
They got both of them.
They did get both of them, but Freedom just struck on everyone else.
Yeah, but the Simplicity walked out from their keep.
Right, they were out, which maybe, yeah, should not have been what happened there, but Simplicity, they're going to contest this. They have no support. They have no Cassia. They're taking a lot of damage from everyone here from Team Freedom. It's a 3v4. Ragnaros is up in the top. Oh, wow.
Yeah, Erho, I don't think he's going to make it out of here. No Ring of Frost, and I think that's going to do it. Team Freedom has found their way back into this game. This is kind of the opposite effect. We would think that Simplicity would be the team, taking those late game team fights, getting themselves back in the game. Instead, we find Team Freedom. We wondered, could they, I guess, handle adversity? And they definitely handled adversity here, but you go back to that boss play,
Yeah. It's not just that boss play, it's the boss play, and everything from that point was sort of like panicked, it felt, from Simplicity.
Structurally, they were ahead.
Yeah. Experience-wise, they were ahead.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised. And Yoda, in his interview, said that he doesn't feel that Simplicity has the same type of map control, the map awareness that their team does have. And I think that the Team Freedom, they understood, and you pointed that out. The boss play was 100% a call that Freedom had to make to get back in the game. You have to turn it into a throw pit, no matter the circumstance. They did, and they took advantage of it.
And they took advantage of ETC stage diving in to get those 2 keeps. So well done by Team Freedom punishing. We asked about punishment, and they delivered there, punishing every single move that wasn't quite perfect from Simplicity. But you guys have been chatting with us at home using the hashtag HGC on Twitter. Let's see what you've been saying about this match. As we get ready for Game 2, Slow Bow Laggins looking forward to the NA games today after watching Zealots beat Dignitas over in EU. Can't wait for the GFE versus Tempo match. Man, I'm pretty pumped about that one too, Slow Bow Laggins. Jay, how you got the next one?
Yeah, it's a big day for Team Let's Go. And you can obviously tell they're a Simplicity fan there as we get every single member from Simplicity tagged. So definitely a big day for them because they are looking forward, trying to still find their way in this league.
And one more esports Spectre. Love to see the Ragnaros pick by Team Freedom. GG. Yeah, Nasmus has been playing Ragnaros here and there. throughout all of part 1. It was great to see him. He had a lot of setups, sulfurous smashes for the team. It was really good.
His accuracy was actually scary. Like,
Yeah.
he was hitting multiple people multiple times.
Yeah, it's a lot of times that you could end up whiffing that. It feels bad, man.
Yeah.
But no, not Nasmus. Let's see where we're going for game 2 now with Simplicity. Having the choice of first pick or Battleground choice, they pick first pick. Team Freedom's taking us to Towers of Doom.
Yeah, Towers of Doom, Sky Temple coming into this weekend, 3-1 for Team Freedom, only 1-1 for Simplicity. Towers of Doom, 1-3 for Simplicity, 3-2 for Team Freedom. So definitely something that they've played on multiple times and had success on. So taking us back here to Towers of Doom. And again, as the comment we just made, was a matter of they feel that they have more of a map control style. And this is one that when you can gain map control in this one, it's very difficult to allow teams to come back from.
Yeah, it's actually kind of interesting to look at the types of compositions that both teams play on Towers of Doom. Both of them have been more prone to picking things like globals, which is sort of just the usual here, but Freedom recently has been going more toward a team fighting style composition if they can get their hands on Genji. Of course, his mobility helps a lot, but then you get Lutano's Genji, who you and I feel is the best Lutano pick.
Yeah, I think he's averaging something like 3.5 kills per game on Genji, and that is across a large amount of games, so it's not just like by accident. Guy goes off on that, and it can be pretty terrifying. But, you know, we saw Hanzo make it past the second ban phase last game, and it's been a high priority for both Lutano and Hosty, who, oh, by the way, top 5 in the world right now in hero damage done per game. And he's been standout on that hero. And I think that's one of the things that Sky Temple, maybe not a high priority for Hanzo, but a map like Towers of Doom, you got to imagine it's going to be a first pick potential.
Yeah, Hosty's also 7th in average hero damage per minute, so he's putting out extreme numbers. Yeah. And it's always very exciting like to see these teams like with Simplicity and Hosty or even Space Station and Casanova be able to still put those numbers out consistently despite the team not always having the success that they would like. When you look at Hosty's kills per game, you recognize that like he is doing a ton of damage, but someone else is executing. And that game was kind of arrow, but we also expect Zuna to be pretty good at that.
Yeah, it's pretty even across the board. Zuna sitting at 1.9, Hosty at 1.9, Urho at 1.2. So, you know, they kind of have you know, whoever wants it can take it, right? It's just like, let me get the damage, I'll soften them up, you guys kind of finish them. You know, last week when we saw Hosty on this battleground, he went against an Uther, played Lunara. They lost, but he put out 143,000 damage that game, Gilly.
Yeah, Lunara's kind of been rising in success, in priority it seems, at least when you look at EU. As with Greymane falling down, she and Tychus have been rising up.